Okay, here's another League of Legends game coming your way, this time as Cho'Gath top. And I think... let's go for Doran Ring this game. Okay, our lane matchups. We have Victor mid against LeBlanc. I'm Cho'Gath top against Master Yi. We have Callista partner with Morgana bot against Leona and Kog'Maw. And we have Fizz in the jungle against Jarvan the fourth. So, Cho'Gath has received a change to his ult since I last played him. We'll go over how he works real quick. Your passive is Carnivore. Killing stuff gives you health and mana back. The amount scales with level. Q is Rupture. Target area on the ground has a 1-to-1 AP ratio. The enemies get knocked up and they are slowed for 1.5 seconds. W is Feral Scream. Cone move. Silence, one of the few left in the game. AoE, of course. It has a decent ratio. Let's see, that's 0.6? Maybe 0.7. And the duration of the silence scales with rank maxing out at 2.5. E is Vorpal Spikes. You launch your spikes out. It's an auto attack modifier. Adds some damage onto your autos and turns your auto into AoE. Finally, your ult is Feast. It has cooldown increased, does true damage with some AP scaling, the same as the W from the look of it. When you successfully kill something, you get half the mana and cooldown back. And I don't know what's with the servers, it's been like this all day. That can cost me the lane. But last hitting with your... okay, I took 2 hits for you, that's where my generosity ends. And we start off by falling on our face.
First blood.
Okay, now I need my spikes. I wanted to make sure that I was pushing my way, now I need to thin it out a bit. Another lag spike. And yeah, any sort of control I could gain on this lane is going to be lost the way the lag's going. Okay, now I'm shifting over to post-game commentary. I got to give 3 minutes of live comm, which is something. So right here I want to just keep the lane kind of on my side of the river. The reason for that is Cho is a pretty good target to gank, and Master Yi is a pretty good character to pick into Cho'Gath. So right there I took some damage, but the key thing is I got him to tank all of those minions. He goes ahead and meditates, I go ahead and rupture, so any healing that he actually tried to accomplish there was just offset. And from here I just have to use my innate sustain while he has to rely on consumables. And like this I got to drive him off, but sadly there are 4 casters there, which means it's going to start pushing his way. And like I said, Cho is not exactly a mobile character by any stretch of the imagination. And to make things worse, if you didn't notice, I'm packing Flash instead of Ghost. The whole reason for that is because of the Jarvan on the enemy team. I figure I do need to get out of a Cataclysm, and right there I kind of psyched him out of his Meditate. But then again, this game I'm going to be doing a significantly different build from my normal Cho build. Normally I go for like this AP bruiser type thing where I go for more auto attacks playing the spike angle. For this game we have the Fizz and Morgana and Victor. We have a crap load of wave clear that the spikes are not necessarily needed. Speaking of which, here's Jarvan. They are going to force me to burn Flash here because Jarvan has red buff. So right there he pulled through my knockup. Kind of sucks, even though he was still in it when the spikes went up. And I have teleports I can go ahead and take off. notifying my team that Jarvan is top so they can try to make something off of it, and without my flash, I need to get the boot so that I can be slightly more mobile. Went ahead and picked up 3 health pots because I was expecting Jarvan to be making a return appearance. As for this, the lane is slowly pushing my way, and as a result I didn't feel the need to burn the teleport because I might be able to make a teleport gank bot. Cho is pretty nasty in that regard. It's just warping in and then feasting on poor Kog'Maw. And I'm not going to spoil whether or not that happens, or if a certain mage will be taking his place, but we'll see. So right here we have a nice little mob building up, and I want to thin out the weak ones, and just all about lane control. So Yi, the mistake he's making here is, without my flash, he should not be pushing so hard. To make things worse, he has not gone back yet. He only has his Doran blade, and I am beating him in terms of CS. And I got the cannon, imagine that. So really low mana. And I still got to clip him with the Scream. I'm going to be maxing the Scream first. I went ahead and put extra points into the spikes just for wave clear and splash damage so I can kind of harass him. So right there I got the knock-up and the Scream, which then leads to Feast. And there's one less Wuju Master in the world. So you can see right there that his ult, the Cho'Gath ult, may be glitched, because I did last hit Yi with that. I executed his ass. And the cooldown was not halved. I did not get the half mana back. I guess that only applies to creep or something along those lines, and as a result, in the second half of the game, I'm just going to give up on trying to get the reduced cooldown, and I'm just using the sucker as a nuke to take out a good portion of a priority target's damage. But for this game, I am going for the Rod of Ages. I'm going for a more caster, tank-oriented Cho. From Rod of Ages, I want to go for the Frozen Heart, of course, for armor, mana, and CDR. The Dampening Aura is always nice to deal with the Kog'Maw and the Master Yi. Sadly, when Yi does pop Highlander, the aura completely vanishes. He ignores it in every single regard. So it's pretty much just for the rest of, like, the periods where he doesn't have his ult. And right here he was trying to trade with me, which is not exactly a bad call on his part if he had items. He did get the cooldowns out of me, so he was able to meditate more than I'd like, but I can fix that with Feral Scream. And right now I just want to whittle away at the Wuju Master. So he went ahead and picked up boots and a Vamp Scepter. The Vamp Scepter gives him a little bit of sustain of his own, but he has to actually be able to hit them. He's clearing with Alpha Strike, and if he tries to auto them, he's going to be eating a Scream. Like right there, you can see that he's fast enough to get out, and I haven't developed the compensation for that just yet. So right there, Meditate was interrupted, Scream is off cooldown, Feast is up. I used the Feast to take out a good portion of his health and then finished him off with the spikes. And eventually Yi kind of will outscale me. He's freaking annoying. I just have to get the early lead and then make him suffer. So eventually I will lose this, it's just I have to take advantage of the time while I have it. And Jarvan failed to make a return appearance. He didn't really have the opportunity to because of how Yi pushed. And my flash is coming off cooldown right around this next, what is that, 15 seconds? But the bad news is, if you look at the scoreboard, I got 2 of these kills, like half the team's kills, and those were solo kills. There was no assist gold that went around. Like right there was a bit of good news, Callista got it, and then we got an assist on Morg, so she got some of the gold as well. And with the Blasting Wand, my Scream hurts. And once I finally get the timing down to hit him with Rupture again, that's going to hurt even worse because that's an additional 40 damage on each hit. So you might have noticed he went ahead and picked up Zerker Greaves to basically screw over any compensation I was starting to develop, and now I have to go one step further. So right there I kind of wanted to feast him, but he didn't take as much damage I would have liked. So one thing I can talk about is, if you may be wondering why Yi did not get a Hex Drinker, that item is a bit of a noob trap for Cho'Gath. So the shield pops up when you fall below 300 health, and Cho'Gath's feast is 300 true damage. And if you notice those last two words, I said true damage. So once that shield pops, that's basically just telling Cho'Gath, eat him now. And as a result, the item, while it will help mitigate some of the damage from Cho's Feral Scream, his Rupture, and his spikes, that's pretty much all it is. You're paying, what is that, 1400 gold for just a little bit of AD and MR, when there are better items you could get that would give you a little bit more survivability. If not for the ult being true damage, then yeah, he should have picked that up almost immediately after getting that Vamp Scepter. So right here, since he's slowed, I got to force his flash. And I don't really play Master Yi, if you haven't noticed the channel. It's been over a year and I do not have a single game with him up, so I'm trying to figure out how his Alpha Strike works. I'm under the impression that it's supposed to return to the first target hit, but if the first target dies, I don't know if that means he reverts to the second target, if he still goes back to where he was. And this lack of information is one of the things that's messing with my aim, because I'm trying to predict where he's going to land.
An enemy has been slain.
And sadly, he doesn't really have too much trouble last hitting under a turret, but I just want to try to set him up for another feast to execute. My goal here is to do a flash feast. If I had to take that summoner spell to escape a cataclysm, of course I'm just going to use it to get even more fed. And in the case of Cho'Gath, that is both figurative and literal. So he ate some Rupture damage, but sadly, since I'm not maxing that, base damage leaves a little bit to be desired, and all I have is the ratio. And sadly, I don't have enough AP yet to really put that 1-to-1 ratio into play. So right now I do have enough to finish the Rod of Ages, but it's kind of low priority. While it is nice to get it stacking, I just need to try to deny Yi and potentially stop him from becoming a late game monster. Right there he narrowly got out, and right now I'm expecting, with all the pressure I started to put on him, Jarvan to make another appearance like he did earlier in the game. So right here I just want to try to bait him in, force him to use his Alpha Strike, or in this case he's clearing it on his own, but he seemed to have wisened up. I don't actually know how much Alpha Strike costs in terms of mana to know if he actually does have enough there for it or not. So not enough to execute him, so I didn't want to burn the feast and have him recall. Meanwhile, you can see the Kog'Maw is going to be a bit of an issue. And sadly, Kog'Maw is really good at tearing through Cho'Gath when fed. A fed Cog beats a fed Cho every time, pretty much. And of course the lag is going to be problematic throughout the game. That's going to cause my first death when the time comes. He got out of the way in time to dodge the Scream, but it's going to cost him a minion to do so. And one thing I don't like about Cho'Gath is that the mana cost of the Scream does increase with the rank of the move. So right there, dead Wuju Master. And you can see Jarvan did show up, but he realized, oh crap, my buddy's dead. Too late. So going back to the cost of the Feral Scream, it costs like 100 mana a shot to use, and if you're wondering how I'm able to cast that without really going... Part of it is that Carnivore, well, I get some mana regen from my Doran Ring. So that's something like 3 or 4 mana regen per second, which is not really that important. The key thing is the other passive on it, how I get mana back for last hitting. So when you combine that with Carnivore, which is going to be restoring something like 6 or 7 mana per last hit by this point, that means I'm going to be getting 9 to 10 mana back per last hit. When you factor in 6 minions per wave, that means I can get 60 mana from that with 30 seconds between waves. Let's see, we'll say the Doran Ring is 3 mana regen per 5. So that means I get 6 ticks of that for an additional 18. Grand total of 78 mana regen per wave. And then you also have to count in whatever Cho'Gath's base mana regen is. And you can see that I can easily afford to use a Feral Scream between the waves. For the Rupture as well, for that I actually have to go into a bit of a deficit, but I have the Catalyst to cover that. I'm also putting the points into the spikes here instead of the Rupture. The Rupture does have a fixed cost, so it's not a bad thing for that to max last. But I'm having a little bit of trouble consistently landing that, and I can also splash damage Yi with these spikes. So he goes ahead and meditates, which means sitting duck. So I get to take out a portion of his health. That did cost me more mana, but once he alpha strikes, that kind of reverses. And I did want to execute him, but no dice. So I go ahead and burn the feast on the 1 minion because I have 10% CDR from the Glacial Shroud. If you remember, 30 seconds per minion wave means by the time I have him back under the turret, that should actually be off cooldown. Or very close. And you'll see that my timing is slightly off here because I probably could have killed him here. And right there my timing was off. As a result, Jarvan ganks. And he runs away, leaving me with Jarvan. So yeah, that was my flash. If Jarvan used his Cataclysm, I think it wasn't up. He could have locked me under the turret, but even still, he's not fed to take advantage of that if you look at his build. He's more of a tank Jarvan rather than damage, so he'd be relying on his passive for damage. And right there is where he royally screwed up. Before this, I didn't really have a way to guarantee a kill on him. But once I landed that one Rupture, that was his death sentence. He did have a chance to kind of get away from me there before he decided to Cataclysm me under the turret. Instead, he went for broke and found himself devoured. But yeah, before that Rupture, I realized the only way I could kill him is if he somehow messes up. Then he steps in the Rupture and realizes, yeah, he just messed up. Meanwhile, I want the Frozen Heart. I went ahead and picked up Ninja Tabby to cut back in Yi and Jarvan's damage. That is going to be so immensely helpful this game that it's amazing. But right here you can see Yi has his Blade of the Rune King, I believe that is. I can't really see the icon too clearly on my screen. But that does kind of punish the health stacking I get from my feast. But he's not really in a position to really take advantage of that. On one hand, he does have the slow to kind of like keep me at bay. But on the other hand, if he gets hit by a Rupture, he's not going anywhere. And I think the Rupture slow is much nastier than the Borg slow. So right here we're approaching the half-minute mark. Right here I was wondering, how much damage can I do to Jarvan? Is it realistic for us to be able to kill him here? And sadly, not really. Calista needed more spears. I didn't really look to see what build she was going for. If she was going for the Blade of the Rune King one, then yeah, that was definitely an option. But right here you can see Jarvan eat more spears. We force his flash, and due to the tower shield, he actually gets to probably evade 1 or 2 of the additional javelin's damage. So right there I landed my combo on Yi, and we are going for broke on him. We're going to force the Highlander, and taking the turret isn't exactly a problem for me at the moment. Tanking a Cog Maw very much is one. So Cog deals mixed damage, both magic and physical, and right now I'm only spec'd for Fizz resistance. But the good news is, since I landed the Rupture, I got to secure Callista's escape, and I got to guard my carry, which is pretty much my role here. Fizz is going to be all about diving the back line, meaning it's my job to protect Callista. And technically Morgana's, but I'm cooler. A friggin' Eldritch level horror. Meanwhile, here Cog has arrived, and right here I could have gotten out of that, but I was delayed due to the lag. And as a result, they got to kill me, and well, there go half my feast stacks. So I can go ahead and pick up the Warden's Mail, and this is pretty much my best item right now for dealing with the Cog. He's going to go heavy in attack speed, and the Frozen Heart is one of the things that can really put a damper on him. The other one would be the Randuin's Omen, but I don't really like that item on top lane Cho'Gath when I'm going this route. Since I don't have the Gnasher's Tooth, I have to get my CDR from the Frozen Heart, and then I have to get my AP from a different source, that's the Rod of Ages, and the Rod of Ages will supply the HP that I normally get from the Randuin's Omen, and to offset the slow of the Omen, I just have to land my Q. So Cho is very, very flexible in terms of his build, and right here, I'm just using a different one from the previous ones on the channel. And one other thing I kind of forgot to point out is, if you notice, I'm top lane Cho'Gath, which is why I'm using the Jurassic skin instead of the Nightmare. I'm trying to reserve the Nightmare one for jungling only. As for this, I didn't see where Yi was. I was wondering, did he already head on down? Was he going to try to walk it in? And I have the ability to interrupt his teleport. He does not have the ability to interrupt mine unless he can somehow kill me. So right here I'm more interested in the dragon fight, trying to figure out when should I warp in, is he warping in, can I interrupt Yi? And right there, as soon as Leona went in, that was my cue. Follow up, LeBlanc got dark bound, blasted by Victor, then devoured. Kog'Maw got blown the hell up. And sadly, this is when I noticed the whole feast not resetting properly, because I kind of wanted to take the dragon. And had feast actually been up, I'd deal more damage than smite, at this level that is. And just due to AP, I actually do out-damage smite anyway. So I was kind of hoping, well, 40 seconds, that wouldn't have been too bad. Then I looked at the timer and realized, crap, it's longer. And even still, it'd be less than 40 seconds because of the 10% CDR from the Glacial Shroud, as well as the 10% of my Runes and Masteries. Good news is we do have Callista here. She can also out-damage smite once she has enough spears in. And they really didn't need my help here, but I'm the tank, so I gotta do my part. You can see right there how she executed it. She might have waited a bit long, but there was no threat of steal, so we could afford to do that. So right here I'm notifying my team that I have Frozen Heart. I don't know how Jungle Fizz is built exactly, but I wanted to make sure that he wasn't exactly going to try to overlap me with that. As for that Blasting Wand, I wanted to build that into an Abyssal Scepter, but if you notice right there, Victor just built that, so I didn't want to... They don't stack, so I didn't want to get two of them. As a result, I realized, well, do I want a Void Staff or a Death Cap? Because that's kind of it for my options. So right there we have another lag spike. Pretty soon it will get better, but we just have to endure for a little while longer. Notify my team that I don't have teleport since I just used it in the dragon fight. I do have distortion boots, so the cooldown isn't nearly as long. And right here I just need to kind of push. As long as my team is applying pressure elsewhere, I can duel E for a little while longer. Soon enough he actually will be strong enough to where he will overwhelm me. Just due to the true damage that his Wuju style will deal, as well as the whole part about me not being able to slow him, both with the Frozen Heart as well as the Rupture. So I'd be banking on the silence, and right there we forced his flash. You can see how much damage I do exactly to him, and it's going to get worse once I actually build the Death Cap. But the death cap is actually going to be the last AP item I want to build. I do need a source of MR to deal with the LeBlanc, who is a bit of an issue, and Kog'Maw also deals magic damage, so MR will help with him as well. So right there is the Goon Squad, Yi and LeBlanc coming in. I could probably kill one of them, but not both, and rather than lose my feast stacks once again, I decide to start making some distance between me and them. Meanwhile, right here we have a traps. Well, we're trying to make a trap. Feral Scream allows me to silence LeBlanc, and that will give us a brief window to actually lock her down. So we have to go Feral Scream into Dark Binding and then kill her. Sadly, she pieced out, so we're left with E. So I ruptured him so that he couldn't get away from the Soul Shackle. Callista used Rend at the last moment to take out most of his health, and I ended up finishing him off with these spikes. So I went ahead and picked off the big one, even though I don't think the jungler will be around these parts. Still a little bit of gold to pick up for a later date. So right here I'm trying to decide where am I needed next. I can go ahead and pick off the golems, and then I'll have enough for a needlessly large rod. Extra 80 AP will be really helpful for the Rupture's 1-to-1 AP ratio, and then just the Feast and Scream ratios. I didn't actually look at those yet, if they're 0.6 or 0.7. So right there I sell the potions, grab the needless. And right here there's really nothing I can do for Callista. So I don't want to burn the teleport. LeBlanc's gonna get out of this anyway, most likely. So I figure I'm not going to chase. I'd rather try to guard the mid so we don't lose a tower as a result of Callista getting picked off. 2 to Highlander, Yi will shred those if given the opportunity, so I actually want to go as far as to make sure that the minions aren't even under turret. Fizz goes really deep here needlessly, and as a result he gets blown up. And you can see that things have gone really, really wrong. Victor did kill Cog at the cost of his life, and as a result we just went 4 for 1. So you can see Yi moving into position down there. And I do have the ward trinket, so I can go ahead and drop a ward in the dragon pit. Due to me having more damage than smite, I can't steal that from an enemy jungler. Right here I get to take a few pieces out of Leona. I don't actually have any penetration at the moment to really hammer her, but she's not going to be making any plays for the time being. And with a little bit of luck we can stop her from recalling before the dragon fight, or the dragon respawn, so that she can't really contribute much to the fight. And basically all these little things are what we're kind of hoping for to keep us alive. So we gotta pick off the pink ward. That will deny them a little bit of vision, and we could potentially ambush them. So Morgana and I can take the Scuttle Crab with the Dark Binding and Rupture. That will lock it down long enough for us to shred it, even though we don't exactly deal a lot of damage. Right here I'm using my other charge, and lo and behold we caught something bigger than a Scuttler. So I went ahead and feasted him immediately to make sure that he was dead. Sadly, his Acathian Surprise is true damage, so Morgana's Black Shield actually does nothing. And Fizz was around to make sure that we could get the Scuttle Crab, but here is our next fight. Good news is we took out Cog already. Bad news is Morgana's in bad shape, and we don't see LeBlanc, who's actually behind us. So Morgana down. Victor picked off E, who is not an issue. LeBlanc picked off Fizz. And I had to secure the dragon with the Scream, and I got to pick off Leona with the spikes. So that is dragon number 3. That means we have more movement speed, and as immobile as Cho is, that's pretty nice. So right here I sat on the distortion in case she tried to back away, or come back to it. I didn't want to burn flash because then she just used distortion to go back across the wall and then she'd leave anyway. So this way it still allows me to keep the summoners, and ideally she wouldn't be able to do anything mid. So right here I just want to make sure that this is pushing into their tower so that they have to go deal with it. Basically putting pressure on one spot to alleviate pressure somewhere else. And I do have enough gold now to finish my death cap. And I don't remember if I think I wanted a Spirit Visage this game for the remaining 10% CDR. So if you remember, Frozen Heart gives me 20, 10 in my Runes and Masteries, puts me at 30. The remaining 10 from the Visage will give me an even 40%, and then I can feast into my heart's content. So right there we can see the Bloodthirster shield and Callista, as well as the little hurricane dot. So normally, as mobile as she is, sadly the enemy team has a LeBlanc who can kind of chase her down. And her shield is probably going to time out relatively soon, so yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't remember if I was the most farmed guy in this game, since I'm doing a lot of wave clearing just to try to generate pressure and at least get some chip damage on turrets. Since the inhibitor turrets regen, those don't really matter as much, but like the bot inner turret, any damage on that one stays. And here we have the next fight. So sadly the goop did kind of stall me, but bad news is Leona can't get out. So she has to go suicidal, and right here I feasted on LeBlanc to pop her passive and try to make sure she stays the hell out. Due to the fizz up there, I thought she was going to try to revert back to us, which is why I screamed the way I did. And I knew Yi was dead, so I focused on the priority target Clog Maw. And that's pretty much how that fight played out. And if you're wondering, Victor is about to get his penta. I almost did take it from him, but luckily he killed Jarvan before my Scream could connect. I didn't think Callista would deal that much damage exactly. So right here I'm roaming the jungle looking for anything I can pick up on my way out. Since I'm so badly injured, I'm not really an asset to my team. I'd have to take last hits from Callista to heal with my Carnivore, which is not desirable. If I die, I lose half my feast stacks, which are going to take me about, well, I thought I moused over it there for a second, but so we'll say 90 seconds to replenish all three if I can use it immediately as it comes up. And that would mean we have less map pressure, especially since I'm going to be weaker in combat with reduced health from the loss of stacks. So right there I was looking to see if the cowl gave me any innate regen. It doesn't. And sadly Victor's in a bit of a bad spot, and I probably could have killed LeBlanc there, but I botched that. Cataclysm on Jarvan does seal Victor's fate. This means Jarvan takes LeBlanc's place in my... Well, does Cho actually have teeth? Well, teeth are supposed to be for vertebrates, and he doesn't have a... Well, whether or not he has a backbone is kind of up for debate. Kind of looks like an insect, even though in his Jurassic skin he does have one. So normally I assume he had like keratin teeth or something along those lines, but... Yeah, it's a bit of a tangent. You can see he has something in his art, it's just, I don't know if those would be calcium teeth. So inhibitor down, I went ahead and cleared this so that Yi couldn't split push into victory. Sadly, this is giving him a lot of CS and EXP to get back into the game, but we just don't want to lose any objectives in the process. I can kind of afford to use the teleport like that because distortion boots. I think I'm also running enough utility points to get the reduced summoner spell cooldowns. Right there I have the Spirit Visage for increased healing from basically my passive and every other source possible. And the final 10% CDR. And for my final item, I'm thinking I should probably go Void Staff. That will make it so that they can't truly itemize against me. I can pierce through MR. I'll have the true damage, and the additional AP from the Void Staff does mean my Feast and every other spell is going to be hitting harder anyway. The other option could be Zonia, so that I could try to mitigate something that's high impact, but on the other hand, what do they have that's high impact? You have Solar Flare, maybe a little bit of time on Highlander, but even still, it's a bit of a stretch. So while Fizz does indeed have a Devourer right there, I did play the jerk move kind of by feasting on the dragon. I wanted to make sure that there was absolutely no way we were losing that. So that was dragon number 4, meaning we clear minions and monsters all the more quickly. That does mean we have to sacrifice the top inner to get it, and Morgana's going to commit suicide right here for some reason. I don't know if her Zonia's was not off cooldown or something, but yeah, he just mows her down and takes off. So right here I'm trying to warn her, next time leave Yi for me. I'm itemized to deal with him and take pieces out of him. Morgana, not so much. She's just going to help him get kills and get back into the game. Speaking of the game, we are now 3 minutes away from the finale. And based on how things are, you can kind of imagine how things are about to play out. If you want a hint, my team is in their base. My team is not full health. Theirs is. So you can kind of imagine people are going to start dying. Number 1 is Yi. Number 2 is Callista. Number 3 is Fizz. Number 4 is Victor. And with those 3 out of the way, the writing's on the wall. They're rushing Baron. So I want to ambush them here. So I drop the ward there in a bit of an inconvenient spot. We have a pink ward to know that I can hide here somewhat safely. They don't know I'm here. And I want to try to pick them off. I wanted to move, but they arrived early. Flash Feast to pick off the Cog. And now 2v2. Top and support versus jungle and support. And the bad news for Jarvan is I'm kind of like an AP Cho'Gath. His damage source is primarily his passive, and he can only use that once every 6 to 10 seconds. I don't remember what exactly. So as a result, Leona goes down while he wants Morgana. She picks him off with the Dark Binding, but even if she didn't, the Feral Scream would have done the trick. And I thought my ping improved, but apparently not. So right there, that put an end to their Baron ambition. And in retrospect, I probably should have ditched the Doran Ring for the Blasting Wand at this point, even if I couldn't finish the Void Staff right off at the bat. And with that massive swing, their jungler, support, and AD carry all down due to my play with Morgana. That means the Baron is now open for us to take. So Callista starts to attack it. She doesn't have the stats to pick it off just yet. Victor goes to help. And finally Fizz arrives. So they're about to surrender, but Callista secures it with her Ren. And with the Baron, that's what we need to end the game. So right here I'm going to die to Kog'Maw. Since he went so much into attack speed, the dampening effect from the Frozen Heart isn't really much to stop him, but in a prolonged fight, like if I had my team here, his build would have gotten him killed with the Hurricane, the Triforce, Blaze Hurricane. He doesn't have the Infinity Edge, and even if he did have it, all he has is the crit from the Triforce. And even then, what does he have for a defensive item? Nothing. So this is the end of the game. If nothing else, I made sure that Cog didn't arrive until it was way too late. But that was Cho'Gath Top for you guys. Thoughts and observations go in the description at the Hero of Light. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.